Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Well, I'm going to do the first video. This is going to be part one of the series on how to choose a bushcraft slash survival knife. And I've thought about this for the last week, and I have decided that for the very first one I'm going to do comfort. And the reason I'm settling to do that one first is one, it's the hardest thing to get, and it's also the most important, if that makes sense. And what I mean by that is you can find that perfect blade shape, the perfect size, perfect steel, love the knife. Then when you get it out and start using it, it's not comfortable. And if it's not comfortable to use, you won't use it. You'll set it to the side and find something else. I've done this myself. I'm sure all of us have done this. I have knives now that I don't use anymore just because I found something that works better. I'm going to say that the most important thing when it comes to comfort is the handle. Not only the handle shape, but the material, the size, and so forth. And I've got some knives laid out here, and I'll use them as examples. And we'll talk about whoa, sorry about that, to hit the tripod. We'll talk about the shape and the size and so forth, and what I have found to be advantages, disadvantages, and so forth with that. Get you turned around here. What I've got laid out here is the ESEE-3, the ESEE-PR4, the LT Wright Bushcrafter, the ESEE Laser Strike, the ESEE-5, and the Tops Prather War Boot. And I'm going to talk about what I found on all of these. I'll start with the Tops Prather War Boot. When I saw this knife, I loved the design of it. I loved that extremely long clip on the front. I love the texture on the scales. Thought, I've got to have this knife. Didn't hurt that it had my name on it, or at least my last name on it. I didn't design this, but my last name is Prather. And once I got this knife, I noticed a couple of things. I noticed that for a lot of the stuff I was doing, that blade, which is a 7-inch blade, is entirely too long. Yes, I can carve notches, I can carve trap triggers, all kinds of stuff like that. But due to the weight of this knife and that long blade, I really got a lot of wrist fatigue with it over time. The handle, I loved that handle shape. Once I got to using it, the biggest drawback I found on that handle is when you're carving, your finger wants to get right up there in that notch, that little guard right there. And over time, it will make that little contact area of your hand so sore. And once it gets to that point, you can't hardly use that knife anymore, because anything you do, you're putting pressure on that one little spot right there, and it's just uncomfortable to use. So would I have known that ahead of time? No. That was one of them things, I didn't realize it until after I got the knife and started using it. That's why if you're looking for a knife, handle a lot of knives. If you have a buddy that has a knife you like, ask him, hey, can I borrow that for the afternoon and see what I think of it? Then when you get it, make feather sticks, carve notches, Use it for 30 minutes to an hour at a time and see if it makes your hand sore anywhere, if it causes hot spots, if it makes blisters, any of that kind of stuff. Because, like I said, if you drop, like on this, I dropped $180 on this when I bought it at the time. Now, it sits up here in a display rack on top of my workbench, and I don't do anything with it just because it hurts to use it. Now, we'll come on down the line there. My ESEE-5. I love the size of this knife. The only drawback I have to this knife is the weight. It weighs almost a pound by itself. I love the 5-inch length of the blade. I understand why they put it a 1/4 inch thick, but I think one of these in 3/16 of an inch thick would greatly improve the usability of this knife. They made it out of 1/4 inch thick because it is designed to be a survival knife for down pilots. Read the description on ESEE and it'll tell you a little bit about that. One thing that I had to do with this knife, I don't know if you can see it by looking at it. Notice how all of this has been reshaped. Same thing here. And it's like that on both sides. See how it's been redone? The reason I done that is because the edge of the scales were not very contoured. They were rounded and didn't have a sharp edge, but they made a real sharp turn, kind of like the ESEE-3 scales. And then what I did is I contoured them even more than that. That greatly improved the usability of this knife. Prior to doing that, these fingers right across here, where they were hitting on the flat spot on that side, would get red and get sore, and long periods of time after repetitive use, you would develop calluses right across there using that knife on all those fingers. Now, since I've recontoured those, I don't have that issue anymore. It's a whole lot more comfortable in the hand. It's easier to use. It completely changed the usability of this knife. Coming down the line, we'll come to the laser strike. I haven't done anything to this handle, and I don't see where it needs anything done to this handle. The handle is thinner, top to bottom, than the ESEE-5. It's rounded pretty good. The only thing I've noticed with this one is if you use it a lot, the jimping that's up here on a new knife will eat into your thumb and cause your thumb to become sore. So what I've done is I've just took all that jimping off and made it smooth, and after doing that, I don't have any issues out of this knife. Again, that's something that I wouldn't have known unless I'd purchased the knife. The jimping where it is starts way back here by that little section and runs up there. So when you choke up on it, it eats at your hand. So just a little bit of a modification that took care of that. So this knife, one of my favorites. I probably use it as much, if not more, than any of the other three laying here. Now, that being said, out of those four, the Laser Strike, the ESEE-3, the PR4, and the Bushcrafter, I have to say the LT Wright Bushcrafter is the most comfortable knife I have. And a lot of that has to do with the handle shape. This little piece right here is comfortable when using it. You can use it all day long. The way it's rounded and contoured, it doesn't cause any hot spots or sore spots on your index finger. The handle, if you'll look at that handle, it's almost as round as a broomstick. That being said, That is part of the reason I believe this knife is so comfortable, is because no matter where you grab it, it feels the same, whether you've got it reversed, whatever. I don't have any complaints with this other than one thing. If you notice, see how it kind of dull looking? The reason for that is I had to take sandpaper and scuff this handle. When I got it, the finish was incredible. It had ungodly shine on it. Looked great. What I found is when your hands sweat or when your hands are wet, because of that round handle, it wants to turn in the hands. One of the things that LT Wright suggests on their website is if it's too slick, just take some 60 grit, 80 grit sandpaper and just scuff it lightly. And that's what I did to it, and it changed the whole feel of this knife. I no longer have issues with it rolling or twisting in the hand. Now, PR4. Kind of the same setup. The only difference is it has this. And I haven't found where that hurts your finger or anything with all the use I've had with this. The sculpting on the handle scales is great. I don't have any hot spots, any issues with grip, anything like that. The only thing with this is where they're so thin. If they had been double that thickness, that knife would have felt a whole lot better in the hand. Not saying that it feels bad, but it would have felt a whole lot better because it would have had a fuller grip on it. Look at the grip on that compared to the grip on that, at the difference in the thickness. Now it comes down to the ESEE-3. Again, same thing as the PR4. I love the knife. I've used it a lot. It's comfortable. It's light in the hand. Using it that way, I don't find any issues with it hurting the finger. Using the choil on it, I don't find any issues using it. The jimping is very, very mild on the back. I haven't had any issues with it. The only issue I've got on it, again, is the handle scales are so thick. If they had been, an 1/8 inch thicker, it would have changed the whole feel of this knife. Now, that being said, where did my sheath go? There it is. That being said, there are companies out there that specialize in making aftermarket handles. So if you find a blade shape, blade size that you like, and the handles are uncomfortable, there's ways to fix that. Everything from good old Wilson wrap that you can get at Walmart in the sporting goods section to aftermarket scales. The Knife Collection, not the Knife Collection, the Knife Center, makes a huge selection of aftermarket scales for Beckers, for ESEEs, all different types of companies. That's definitely a way to go if you find a knife that you like, but the handles are uncomfortable. I'm not going to discuss the sheaths or anything like that because there's a world of aftermarket sheaths out there for knives. You can get them in any shape and size. To me, that's just a minor inconvenience. I don't care about that. I can fix that. But the comfort of the knife is so, so important, because if you don't enjoy using it, if it hurts to use it, if it causes hot spots, if it wants to slip all the time when your hands are wet or sweaty, all of those things come into play as to whether or not that knife will get used. If You don't use it, then it, for lack of a better way of putting it, it becomes a paperweight. Prime example, this big thing. Y'all have seen my video on it, and this knife has had a lot of use. It is extremely heavy. The handle, when you're chopping with it, that handle's comfortable. But if you're trying to hold it up here and you're trying to carve triggers or anything like that, that little hump right there sits right on the meaty portion of that finger, just like that. And over time, it will make the bottom of that finger sore. If you have a metal wedding band on and do that, granted not everybody's left-handed, but if you have a metal wedding band on and you're using that, that finger will get so sore it hurts to bend it. Found another knife that didn't hurt me. This one here never gets used anymore. Teaser, this knife may come up in the 1,000 subscriber giveaway. We'll see. But please, if at all possible, before you drop $100, $150, $200, $250 on a knife, see if you can find a buddy that's got one at a meetup, at whatever, and see if you can use it for a little while and see how it feels. I don't know about you all. I work hard for the money that I get to spend on knives, and nothing disappoints me more than to drop a bunch of money on a knife and then hate it and not use it. And once you've used them, you can sell them, but you'll never get back out of them what you've got in them. I'm not going to ramble on too much more with this. I could just keep going and going, but I'm not. I've covered the basics. Find what feels comfortable. Find what's easy to use, and make your selection that way. I know that's easier said than done because not everybody has access to try knives of different makers, different styles, and all of that, and I get that, but that's definitely something to consider, is the comfort in the hand when you're using it for long periods of time. I'll get the next video up in this series, probably be next weekend. I'm not sure where I'm going to go with it yet. I'm kind of leaning toward blade size and blade shape with it. We are about 10 away from the 500 giveaway. I've gained a few and lost a few. That happens. It goes back and forth. But we're getting there. Like, share, subscribe. I'll get another one up for you soon.